Welcome to the 2019 Comm Studies Week Alumni Showcase. Our event this year takes a different shape than the panel of previous years. We've encouraged each alumnus to prepare a presentation that highlights the way their comm background aided them in their professional career. Following each presentation, there will be an opportunity for questions. If you are viewing the showcase from our satellite location in Lumina, you can snap your questions to the UNCW Comm Week Snapchat. The code can be found in your programs. We've assembled a bright and talented group of alumni here today, and we hope you take advantage of the wealth of experience they each have. Our first presenter is a 2011 Comm Studies graduate. She's currently the Associate Director of Development at NC State University. Please welcome Mandy Baker. Oh, I think I should. Please join me in thanking Mandy. Our next presenter is Nick Cusco, who graduated from the program in 2012. He currently serves as an account manager for the Carolina Panthers. Please join me in thanking Nick. Our next presenter is Shane Fernando, who graduated from the program in 2000. He currently serves as the executive and artistic director for the Wilson Center. Please join me in thanking Shane. Our next presenter is Alex Noble, who graduated from the program in 2013. She currently owns and manages A Noble Events and Design, a full-service event planning firm. Please join me in thanking Alex. Our next presenter is Christine Schultz, who graduated from the program in 2015. She currently serves as the social media advertising strategist for ROI Revolution Incorporated. Thank you all for coming to the showcase. We hope you gained a lot of insight. If you'd like more of an opportunity to interact with these alumni and more, join us at 5 at Ironclad Brewing for an alumni networking event. Professional dress, please. Until then, join us in Lumina Theater at 1 p.m. for the satellite viewing of TEDx Airly. Thanks for joining us.
Communication Studies. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? How do I sound?
Tell me about your morning. What did you do this morning?
I woke up, I went to the UNCW Rec Center, got a workout in. I was one of 3 people. I was amazed. I think maybe college night got the best of all the students. And I went to Wagner Hall by myself, and it was great. It was the best $7 I've ever spent. And
What'd you eat? What'd you eat at Wagner?
I went to the omelet bar. Absolutely. Haven't been in like 5 years. I went to the omelet bar. Took a little while, but it was worth the wait. Good.
And then
So did you love my very awkward?
Let's see. What else did I do? Oh my gosh, I turned it to 98.3 The Penguin as soon as I got here because it's the greatest radio station of all time. Agree, disagree? Do you know? What do you think? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking
You don't know what 98.3 The Penguin is? Oh my gosh, it's like the best radio station of all time. You can only pick it up in Wilmington. Yeah, it's only a Wilmington station.
It's probably right.
Okay, that's fine.
Pay attention to make sure your hair doesn't
Okay.
get on top of the mic.
Flip.
Do you want to keep going?
Yes. Okay. Any static now? Can you hear it? Okay.
Still there.
So I had to,
Yeah.
is it the fabric? Am I moving? Okay.
We're gonna have to switch out the mic, so if you guys want to mute that real fast, and then I'll take it out. And then we'll have to. Okay.
Are you turning off these?
We'll mute them, so you don't have to worry about the button. I'll be right back with the.
Just clip it anywhere. I think is best. Thank you. Me? All right, we'll figure that out later. Is that on there? What is going on with that?
Okay, the clip on this mic is very weird.
Well, you want to test it anyway?
Yeah, we can test it. Go ahead and just start telling me a little bit about it.
My acai bowl this morning. It had bananas and coconut and nuts and oats in it. It was delicious. I think they might have sweetened it a little bit because acai berry is kind of like, okay, is it good? Okay.
It's we specifically told
Yes.
you no to you.
Yes,
like, do
hello,
not wear
testing
teal
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Well, when I came in here and we were talking about the
I went
lighting
into
and whatnot.
work, went through our development. Wait, no, where's everyone? Oh, I'm just doing sound check. Okay. Chicago, the band is loading in this morning, getting their trucks unloaded, then getting the buses unloaded with the artists for their sound check this afternoon. Good.
Hi, my name's Alex. Can you hear me now? Oh, hi, my name's Alex with A Noble Events and Design. I'm so excited to be here today. You're so cute. It's not too much on my scarf right now. Live Alumni Showcase. We're here with all of the alumni comm majors today.
Talk how you're gonna talk.
Oh,
You're good.
hi. Hi, I'm Alex with A Noble Events and Design, and I'm so excited and honored to be here today to share just a little bit about how my time with the Communication Studies Department at UNCW has really impacted my successes as an event planner.
All right.
Oh, okay.
My name's Christine Schulz. I live in Raleigh right now, work for ROI Revolution. Graduated back in 2015, did a little bit of work for the Alumni office, and eventually moved to Raleigh for my job at ROI, and that's been a really fantastic experience. I do social media marketing, a little bit of... I can project a little more too. I usually do. I should speak a little bit louder then, I guess. Okay, my name is Christine Schulz. I work in social media marketing, do a lot of paid social work, portfolio of about...
Welcome to the 2019 Comm Studies Week Alumni Showcase. Our event this year takes a different shape than the panel of previous years. We've encouraged each alumnus to prepare a presentation that highlights the way their comm background aided them in their professional career. Following each presentation, there will be an opportunity for questions. If you're viewing the showcase from our satellite location in Lumina, you can snap your questions to the UNCW Comm Week Snapchat. The code can be found in your programs. We've assembled a bright and talented group of alumni here today, and we hope you take advantage of the wealth of experience they each have. Our first presenter is a 2011 Comm Studies graduate. She's currently the Associate Director of Development at NC State University. Please welcome Mandy Baker.
Thank you. Bright and talented. Wow, thank you so much. I am Mandy Baker. Like she said, I graduated from the Comm Studies Department in 2011, and I currently serve as the Associate Director of Development at NC State University in Raleigh. And or higher education fundraising actually began when I was a student, my senior year in the Comm Studies Department. I approached Tammy Bolger and said, Tammy, I need an internship. I'm ready to apply all this knowledge to the real world. And she said, you know, you should really think about approaching the Division for University Advancement and the Office of Annual Giving. And I said, okay, I don't know what any of that means, but yes. And I approached them, had an interview, and completely fell in love with the industry at the moment of the interview. And so my career in development began at that point as an intern. And then I worked in the Office of Annual Giving for the next 3 years before moving into more of a frontline position role in which I serve now at NC State University. But I'm going to backtrack a little bit because you're probably wondering, why do we need to fundraise for an institution like UNCW? We pay tuition and fees, and isn't it a state-funded university? Well, yes, it is, but actually the experience that we receive, the value of that is way higher than what we actually pay in tuition and fees and what the state is able to fund us. So that margin is about a third. We rely on private support from alumni, parents, even faculty and staff and students who all make gifts or donations to the university every year that provide us to have an even greater experience than what we pay. So about 3 years into the annual giving office, I decided that I was ready to transition into more of a frontline role within university advancement or higher education fundraising. And frontline fundraisers serve to be the face of the university, and they get to travel and meet with our constituents, who I just listed as alumni and parents and faculty and staff and students, wherever they are. So I had the opportunity in that role to travel to Orlando and Nashville, Tennessee, and Charleston, all over North Carolina, New York City, and DC regularly to meet alumni and donors for coffee, lunch, dinner, drink. And was really enjoyed having the opportunity to build relationships with those people. And my job was to solicit for gifts from in the range of $1,000 to $25,000. So in my role, I was charged with asking donors and alumni for $1,000 or more, or for them to renew their gift or upgrade their gift, or consider making a much larger gift or a gift with their estate, either now or at some point in the future. So to give you an example, that concept is called Leadership Annual Giving. And that concept serves the role to bridge the gap between our annual giving program, gifts from $1 to $1,000, from gifts to $25,000 and much larger. You might have recently heard of the gift from an alumnus from UNCW, David Congdon, who just made a $10 million gift. That's what we consider a major gift. And so Leadership Annual Giving serves to pay attention to bridge that gap between $1,000 and $25,000. So in my time, I got to work with several donors at $1,000 and far beyond, even closing a gift of $500,000. That was really exciting. But all gifts I closed were exciting because I got to build the relationship with those donors, and no matter if they were $1,000 or $500,000, and hear their story. And that was really, really fun and exciting. As you can imagine, I utilized lots of skills that I learned in the Comm Studies department. And throughout my career, I actually was able to raise $1.2 million, including small gifts and major gifts, which is a really cool thing to say that you were able to do for your alma mater, close $1.2 million in gifts. So as you can imagine, I got to utilize interpersonal, and still get to utilize interpersonal communication in my role today at NC State, where I've been implementing their first ever Leadership Annual Giving program, building the processes and implementing the concept, and even hiring a team so that we are able to identify the future major gift prospects for NC State. By the way, we're in the middle of a $1.3 million campaign at NC State. But each and every day, I think back to Tammy Bolger's class where I learned language, how to use language, that it's not what you say, it's how you say it in interpersonal communication. As you can imagine, I have to be very persuasive in my role. I have to persuade people to take time out of their day to meet with me. I have to persuade them to give more, and to consider giving much, much more in the future. So that's all rhetorical theory and rhetoric and persuasion. So if development isn't something that you've considered, communication studies grads are the perfect fit for a professional in this role. And I'm really proud to say that I wouldn't be in the position I'm in if it wasn't for the Comm Studies program and for that internship that Tammy Bolger introduced me to. And I get to have a professional role, but go home at the end of the day every day and be able to say, I worked hard on something today for the purpose of the greater good, making education more accessible for someone. So thanks to the Comm Studies program.
So we now have a minute that we can take questions from Mandy. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll come over to you. Do we have any Snapchat questions?
We do.
So Mandy, you specialize in relationship building in your role as Associative Director of Development at NC State. What advice can you give to students looking to foster professional relationships through networking, something that they haven't heard before?
Wow. Well, you've heard it before and you'll probably get tired of hearing it, but networking is how I've been placed in each of my roles at UNCW and at NC State. Just making yourself available. We learn these skills in our public speaking classes that we can apply to this. You know, have good posture, have good delivery, make great eye contact, have a good handshake, always look professional. I always consider my professional appearance as a part of my delivery as well. Make yourself available. Even if you're not outgoing, you know, there's a place in development or networking for everyone. You don't have to be my personality type that just feeds off of relationship building and making new contacts and meeting new people.
Are there any more questions? All right. Please join me in thanking Mandy. Our next presenter is Nick Cusco, who graduated from the program in 2012. He currently serves as an account manager for the Carolina Panthers.
Thanks, Marin. Again, my name is Nick Cusco. I live in Charlotte. I work for the Carolina Panthers. I graduated from UNCW in Comm in 2012, so a little older, but definitely miss it here. I was around campus today, and it was beautiful. You guys are still lucky to be here. But what have I been doing since? Towards the end of my time at UNCW, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so decided to go the grad school route. Ended up going to James Madison University up in Virginia and received my master's degree in sports leadership. After that time, I was fortunate enough to land an internship with the Carolina Panthers in the sponsorship department, helping oversee the Buick GMC game day activation. When my time there was ending, there was nothing full-time available, which is often the case in a lot of industries, especially sports. So I took another internship in Charlotte with GMR Marketing. It's a sports marketing agency. I was on the Lowe's home improvement account, help oversee their sports partnerships with the Panthers, Hornets, NCAA, MLB, PGA, and NASCAR. So that was a really great, varied, diverse experience. And then after a year there, I was very fortunate. I received a phone call that I wasn't sure would ever come, and the Panthers called me to bring me back full time. And that's where I've been since. I'm on the sponsorship team, as I mentioned, doing account services. What is client services? Cam, thank you so much for asking. It's a great question. So client services, our department is split up into two, half sales and then account services. So our sales team formulates contracts with sponsors, multi-year deals filled with assets that may range from social media programs to tickets to community programs, radio commercials on our network, et cetera. And then when that contract is finalized, it's handed off to us on the client services team, and we fulfill that contract throughout the year. It's a year-long process. We always kind of laugh when people say, what do you do in the off season? You get a lot of time off, you get a lot of downtime. Right now is arguably even busier than in the season, just preparing, getting ready. We have a new team owner, a new team president, and a new chief marketing officer. So a lot of new ideas, a lot of throwing stuff up on the wall, seeing what sticks, but it's a really exciting time for us. Before I jump into this, I want to give a shout out to my main man, Dr. O. We've had an ongoing one-on-one basketball series going for a couple years now. I'm up pretty good in that series, but we'll talk about that later. But COM and bridging my career gap, how did COM get me to where I am today? Again, shout out to Dr. O, COM 200. He said, you may not love this now, but you're going to need this later. I use that every day in my work and the research, how to be an effective researcher. You know, how do you obtain that information? How do you process it? How do you present it? And every single day, again, I use that. The second one, COM 378, business and professional COM. I feel like that really set me up to how to be professional in the workplace, how I present myself in the workplace. How do I interview? You know, how is my resume ready? How do you conduct yourself in meetings? I think those are all things that prepared me, and you know, I've had the opportunity since to help hire interns that we bring in. And us in COM, we feel like those are skills, and that's exactly what they are, skills that everyone has, but that's not the case. And those, I think in COM, have these skills really polished, and it really sets you apart from the other candidates. And that's a really big thing trying to get in entry-level jobs. How do you set yourself apart from others trying to go for that same job? And then the last one, the directed individual study and the internship I did here with the department. My internship was with UNCW Marketing Communications here on campus, and my directed individual study was help plan Rock for a Cure annual event that we used to have. And both were just real-life examples of planning an event, you know, what went into that, how did we implement those events, and just things to beef up my resume and show, and I could talk about in interviews, again, of real-life examples. Landing your dream job. So I think there are about 4 things that, you know, together really would set you up for success trying to get a job. I think first, again, relevant experience. What are you doing, again, to beef up that resume, to show that you have experience in the field you're trying to go into. The second thing, a little hard to see, it says network. Network. I think, you know, it's a little cliche, but they say it's not what you know, but who you know. And that's so true these days. How are you getting your name out there? How are you casting a wide net? You know, do you have a LinkedIn profile? Is it quality? You know, what are you doing, again, to get your name out there? The third thing is master your craft. What are you passionate about? What are you excited about? What are you good at? How are you focusing those things and harnessing those things towards a common goal, again, to where you want to be? And last, but certainly not least, your common advisors, especially coming from someone who wanted to take a non-traditional route, perhaps, and wanted to work in sports, wanted to be in marketing. I leaned on my comm advisor. You know, how do I navigate my time at UNCW as well as my time in the comm department during my couple years to set me up for success.
Well, thank you, Nick. I really appreciate it. I know I certainly do the advice. Being a graduating senior, we can take all the advice we can get right now. But does anybody else in here have some questions for Nick? Yes.
Oh, sorry. What are some of the things you did as a in the account services? What are some of the things you did and the ideas you came up with?
We're constantly tasked with that. So on the client services team, we also help with renewing sponsors. For instance, they may have a contract for 2, 3, 5 years, but when that contract's up, we're tasked to how do we come up with new ideas to keep it fresh. You know, if someone's doing the same thing for 5 years, they want to change up programs. So one of the examples, so we created a new event for one of my accounts, Academy Sports and Outdoors, which is a competitor of Dick's Sporting Goods. We came up with a new idea for them. Is one of our players, Christian McCaffrey, was in Denver, Colorado when a gentleman had a hiking accident, and Christian was there and called 911 and helped him and came to the hospital with him afterwards. So how did we tie that with Academy? So we flew our videographers out there and Christian was out there and the family. We captured content. We invited them to come to a game. We flew them to a game. We brought them into an Academy store, so that's kind of how we tie it back to Academy. We geared them up for the game. We gave them $1,500, the whole family, and then we brought them to a game, gave them sideline passes. and they just had a really great experience. So that's a win for one of our players. It's a win for our brand. It's a win for our sponsorship and academy. So that's just one example of one of the ideas that we come up with, and we work with folks internally at the Panthers to make a really cool final product.
Well, I think we have a question from Snapchat.
Okay.
The top one. Where'd it go? Technology man. You have years of experience with sports marketing. From what you've observed in each of your positions, how do you see the world of sports marketing changing?
Digital. Everything is digital and social driven. The Panthers social media, I don't know who in here are watching are Panthers fans, but we have one of the best social media accounts and websites, not only in football or NFL, but in sports. So if you want to follow an example of just a really good best practice of social media and where everything's going, I'd say follow the Panthers Twitter and Instagram and how creative we are and new ideas. Just an example, we did a thing last year where it was based off the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song, and we made a different post for each word in the theme song, and people didn't really know what was going on. It seemed kind of vague, but at the end there's kind of a reveal, and it revealed the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song. So just different and not a huge point to it, but just kind of funny and just to kind of stand out. It got a lot of national buzz, but everything in sports marketing is digital. It's going away from print. So how do we stay up with the new wave?
Well, please join me in thanking Nick. Our next presenter is Shane Fernando, who graduated from the program in 2000. He currently serves as the Executive and Artistic Director for the Wilson Center.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to come back to UNCW. After graduation in 2000, I moved to Washington, D.C., and I began work on the Foreign Relations Committee in the U.S. Senate. And after 5 years, I came back to Wilmington and began studies with the Public Administration program here at UNCW, and also oversaw UNCW Presents, our visual and performing arts and film programming entity and student affairs here. And then that led me eventually to the Wilson Center. The Wilson Center is the largest and most technologically advanced performing arts center in eastern North Carolina. And we are 3.5 years old now. I began 5 years ago when construction began. So I had a hand in our design elements which dictated how people interact with the building and each other when they're in the space. Also, as its first employee, it was a privilege to have a hand in developing what the organizational culture would look like once the building was established and our programming began, and how we would interact with the community and each other. Today, I have over 1,000 employees, interns, volunteers, and work-study students. And at the Wilson Center, we have a programming model which we are to remain financially independent of Cape Fear Community College, while also serving as a laboratory for student learning. We have a guest services approach where our guest experience is first and foremost. The show begins when a guest buys the ticket or steps foot on the property. And so that's a full package experience of, you have the performance, but the show is all around before and after. The arts and culture industry in America contributes over 4.3% to our nation's GDP. So what does that mean? That means that arts and culture contributes more to our nation's economy than agriculture, than the tourism industry, more than transportation, more than energy, more than new construction. It is a major driver to our nation's economy. And it's also an industry that continually delivers a surplus to our nation's trade, as well as being an industry that is still yet to find a way to offshore its jobs. So what do I do? So the Comm Studies Department has left me with an amazing toolkit that I pull from every day, whether with research methods to storytelling. I oversee our financial operations, our internal human resources, our technical operations, our client services, guest services, artist services. Also, I oversee our programming. So we have 3 major arms of programming. We have our PNC Broadway series. It brings down national Broadway tours. Also our Star series, this brings in national headliners for concert and comedy, and a contemporary dance series, which houses our arts and education wing. I also oversee the programming at Thalian Hall Center for Performing Arts, another venue in downtown Wilmington. And then we have also a major component is our marketing and public relations arm. So we span the gamut from traditional print to experimental virtual and social media campaigns. We have our own in-house video production arm. We create thousands of media assets from print to virtual every year, and we're in the process of establishing our a virtual Wilson Center radio station. Also, as I mentioned before, student engagement is very important to what we do. So we engage students from K through 12, bringing them to performances, having them perform on our stage, as well as creating our production elements for live productions. We also have engagement with colleges in terms of undergraduate and graduate students across the state. And I will say that one thing that with our Comm Studies department, it is bar none the strongest internship program on UNCW's campus, and I would say one of the strongest internship programs across the state. We partner very closely with the Comm Studies department here. Actually, my latest hire was a Comm Studies graduate who graduated last year, and she was one of our interns. I will say that if you are not interning and don't have an internship yet, get one. I can connect every professional experience I've had to an internship, and whether it was a networking opportunity or relationship that I built. So intern. And now I'd love to entertain any questions. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, does anybody have any questions for Shane?
Could you touch on some of the larger media campaigns that you guys have ran in the past and more successful ones?
Absolutely. We have obviously a regional focus in the Wilmington region, but we also, 30% of our business comes from outside of Wilmington. And so within our first 6 months, we had guests from all 100 counties in North Carolina, all 50 US states, and every continent, I guess with the exception of Antarctica. And so we have a very localized, hyper-localized focus that we run internally. We also partner with campaigns with our artists who have an international following. And so it's definitely a two-pronged approach, and at any given time we have around 40 to 50 independent marketing campaigns in process with their own budgets and their own strategies, depending on the performance.
So before I look at the Snapchat questions, does anybody else in here have some questions? No? Do we have a Snapchat question? Alrighty. In what way did you combine the skills you acquired as a comm studies major with your career?
Goodness, well, it's communication and relationships, and the performing arts industry is certainly a relationship industry. It's trust before, when an artist is booked, for instance, I'm booking things out into 2023 right now, there's no contract. So that legally binding handshake and look in the eye and say, yes, we're gonna book you for this date and this time and this fee is binding. And if you renege on that, you will not make it in this industry. So first, that trust and relationship is so important, and that your word is your bond. That is a major piece. Also, the persuasive communication is so important. Constantly negotiating fees, constantly negotiating contracts, constantly negotiating artists, writers, and it's a give and take. And so that's a huge piece of it, being able to maintain that trust, but also that give and take.
Alrighty, well, please join me in thanking Shane. Our next presenter is Alex Noble, who graduated from the program in 2013. She currently owns and manages A Noble Events and Design, a full-service event planning firm.
Hi friends, Good morning. I'm Alex, and I own A Noble Events and Design, as they mentioned. I'm so excited and thankful to be here today and just be able to share a little bit about how being a part of the UNCW Comm department really has contributed to my successes as an event planner. So a little bit about me. So I own, like I said, A Noble Events and Design, and I launched my company in 2016. So I'm headed into my 3rd year of business as a full year. So very exciting. I plan and produce a number of events all up and down the East Coast, from Savannah, Georgia to, I gave you guys a little map here, but it doesn't look like it's showing up. Savannah, Georgia to Baltimore, Maryland. And I was just recently able to add destination planning onto my platform, as I just wrapped up an event in Puerto Rico a few weeks ago for a corporate client that I have. While the majority of my business is weddings, I would say probably 90% of what I do is wedding planning, I do have a handful of corporate events, mainly up out of the DC area, and I'll connect that in a little while. You're like, why did you talk about DC? As well as a few life clients, which life clients, social clients, same thing. It's any event in life that's worth celebrating. So whether that's a baby shower, a bar bat mitzvah, a birthday party, so all those fun things. So I do a little bit of it all. So when I really sat down, it was funny to think about how being a comm major and how my time here really did impact my, love of event planning and how that is really fostered. I realized that what I do every single day through managing relationships, creating relationships, as an entrepreneur, I know what it's like to build a brand from the ground up because I did that. I am my brand, so my company, it's all me. I'm the full owner and lead designer of A Noble Events and Design, along with a team of fabulous interns and assistants that help me on site on weekends. But finding someone and teaching others too what it means to represent your brand, and finding people that you trust to represent your brand, because that is a very hard thing to do. But most specifically, I would say Dr. Pursuit's IMC class, which I now have been told, I think that's more so geared towards a lot of social media marketing, which it's funny that that's the case, because it's amazing how many clients and how many inquiries I get from my Instagram account. I have booked brides from my Instagram. So really knowing how to communicate through social media, and you all know it's a digital age, it's what we live in. So really understanding how that works and how social media does play such a huge impact, especially in the events industry. Moving on a little bit, so Comm 400 capstone, which of course you all have to take, you're highly encouraged to get an internship position when you're in that class. Backing up a little bit before that, event planning was something I always knew I wanted to do. It really was. I'd never really struggled with what I wanted to be when I grew up. I grew up with a mom who always hosted and was entertaining, and so that was just something that really came natural to me. And so when I was in college, I did an internship with a local company here in Wilmington, Kickstand Events, who's been around for a little while. And then before I signed up for Comm 400, I actually moved up to DC for a summer and interned with a fabulous event planning company up in DC called Evoke. Through that internship, I really fell in love with the industry in DC. It just solidified that I want to be an event planner, and this is what I'm good at, and this is what I want to do. So, through my opportunities and connections that I made through that internship up in DC, I fostered a lot of relationships, one most specifically with a company called Occasions Caterers, who's the leading full-service catering company in the eastern United States. And they actually became my first employer after graduation. So that was definitely a connection and a relationship that I made through my internship and time in DC. A little bit about, my connection with my internship in DC, Evoke, strictly came from a mentor that I met here in college when I was in school through Greek life. I made a really good friend, and also someone who was very popular and familiar with the industry, and she kind of took me under her wing, and that is really how I broke into the industry up north and became familiar and really learned. So some advice to people that are interested in going into the industry, and just for all of you in general who are kind of at that place where you're trying to figure out where to go next, get involved on campus. Like I said, my connection through my internships, it's funny because just listening to everyone else talk, I feel like we all have the same thing to say ultimately, and we all utilize the same skills that we learned in comm. We just apply them in different ways. So definitely get involved on campus. Hands-on experience and internships. just like everyone else has said also. My job now and the opportunities that I've been given all started with internships that I did either here at UNCW or connections that I made through friends in the comm department, professors in the comm department, all that good stuff. Always be prepared to network. So, so I am my brand. I am constantly on brand, if that's what you want to call it. And that's anywhere from being at the grocery store, attending network events, meeting with new venues, keeping on trend, constantly researching, staying up to date with what's happening in the wedding industry. Introduce yourself. So I know that we live in a very digital age, but there is nothing, in my opinion, that, there's a lot that can be said for a handshake and a smile and greeting. I know that that's, a little bit harder for some people because it might be out of your comfort zone a little bit, but I promise it gets easier after you just do it one time. So don't be afraid just to go up to someone, shake their hand, introduce yourself. I promise it will come back to you in your benefit. Get to know your professors. So they're actually really cooler than you think. And they want to help you. They know people who know people, and they really do have your best interest at heart. You guys have to think about it as there's so many of you, and it's hard for them to be able to connect with all of you. So you take the initiative and go connect with them, because at the end of the day, they really are there for you. And even if they don't know somebody, which I'm sure they do, they're a wealth of knowledge. So definitely take advantage of that while you're here. And then, I know I'm running out of time, I'm sorry. Just a few little things. So I just recently was asked to represent the realm of event planners in the Carolinas and was featured in the Not Carolinas under their Ask the Expert column. So that was great. And then just some fun photos, because what I do is very graphic. So this is a beautiful wedding that I produced in Middleburg, Virginia. Cute little baby shower that I did locally here in Vincent, North Carolina. And then an annual gala that I produce for a corporate client out of DC, the National Housing Conference. So yeah, so let's connect. So that's what I do every day. So feel free to Instagram message me, email me. I'd love to help you answer any questions. And if you know anyone that needs an event planner, call me.
Right, so speaking of questions, does anybody in the audience have any questions for Alex? Ooh, I'll come over here first. When you started your brand, did you have other brand inspirations? And then how did you make yours your own to make yourself unique, to stand out?
That is such a good question. And I think in my industry, the most important part is figuring out how to make yourself stand out. Of course, I had a ton of inspiration, whether it be through fashion designers, traveling is where I found a lot of my inspiration, my own personal style, and really, it's something I really work on every single day. I don't have it figured out, and it's something that, through just a lot of self-reflection and communication, really. I mean, it's something I grow with that every day, and I think I'm still kind of figuring out ultimately who I want to represent, within my brand. But I think figuring out what you do and what you do really well, and kind of using that as your platform, is a great way to go about it.
And then back, come on the other side.
How would you say what you learned in the IMC classes affected how you created your own brand and your own company, and how it affects perhaps like the % of revenue you earn from social media connections?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question too. You guys are right. So in integrated marketing, and I think that this class in itself has kind of transformed since when I took the class, which was probably back in 2011. But during that time, we really focused on, for example, I just remember specifically, we really came in on the brand Starbucks, and how, Starbucks may not be the best coffee. Like, we all have room to grow, right? However, they do such a good job of delivering what they, the product that they serve, and they attract their clients. They know their clientele. They know, who they want to attract, who they want to be bringing into their stores, and it's the same thing for me. Early on, I kind of made a really good, and again, it's changing because I figure this thing out every day, but, I know the clientele that I want to attract, and I know the events that I want to plan and produce, and just really staying true to that. So that's a lot of what I took away from my IMC class, but, as far as revenue from social media, like I said, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I could show you statistics on just, inquiries in general that I get from just, messages on Instagram. And it's not only clients either. It's a ton of vendor relationships that are really fostered and, come to life through the power of social media. And, a lot of what I do also, aside from planning weddings, is connecting with fellow industry people and providing inspiration for others. So that's a large part of the power of social media for what I do.
Well, please join me in thanking Alex. Our next presenter is going to be Christine Schulz, who graduated from the program in 2015. She currently serves as the social media advertising strategist for ROI Revolution Incorporated.
Hey everyone, like Maren said, my name is Christine Schulz. I'm a social media strategist at ROI Revolution. ROI Revolution is a digital marketing agency, so we do a lot of different things. We do advertising on Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Obviously, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Snapchat, that's my portion of it. But we also do some conversion rate optimization, search engine optimization, the whole gamut. But I specifically focus on social media, primarily Facebook and Instagram, but we do a little bit of Pinterest and Snapchat too. So I love that all of our presenters today have mentioned how important social media is, because that is my whole job. I've been there for over 3 years now. And my role right now is to mostly lead the strategic direction and the relationship management with my clients. So I started at our Revolution as an analyst, did a lot of A/B testing. So when you talk about research methods, that was kind of the foundational knowledge I used there. It's much more integrated than you think it is, where you're trying to have a control on a variable and make sure there's no other impacting factors. But that wasn't my passion. I'm more about the relationship management. So I transitioned into this role a few years later. So now I have about 8 to 11 clients, varies a little bit with seasonality. We hold monthly or more often calls with those clients. And the thing we talk about at ROI Revolution is that people do business with people. So while we are held to certain key performance indicators, whether that's the ROI or how many sales we're driving that month, if we have a bad month, then the secondary metric there is going to be the relationship that we have with our clients. So if that's a good relationship, there's a higher likelihood they're going to stick around. But just to give you a little bit more background on my trajectory, I declared my major in fall of 2012, which was my sophomore year. I started out with psychology, figured out you can't make a whole lot of money in that business, so transitioned to something that's a little more business focused. In that time, I took a lot of these classes we're talking about, IMC, Comp 400, internships. The internships was actually a pretty integral part of my career here because when I graduated in 2015, I didn't yet have a job. I was interviewing a lot in the 6 months after, and it was really hard. Networking is something that it's always going to be out of your comfort zone. So going to these networking events and exactly like Alex said, introducing yourself and just taking that first step is something that's really tricky, but you just got to put yourself out there. But because of the relationships I developed, I started working for the UNCW Alumni Association in August part-time. And I actually interned with them my final semester. So a lot of the relationships I developed there is the reason that I got this job. But it was part-time, not something I was, I wanted a full-time job like anybody else. So then in December, I started working at ROI Revolution in Raleigh. I moved up there, and then 2 years later, I was promoted to my current position. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoy it a lot. The people I work with are also a little bit on the younger side. I'd say most of the office is under 30, but it's really interesting because then we get to develop these interesting relationships and grow as a company. One of the main reasons I chose ROI Revolution over some of the other companies I was interning with, interviewing with, is because they actually do really focus on continuing education. That was something that I didn't want to lose as I left college. So a lot of the things that I've learned in my current role is because of that focus that ROI Revolution placed on that continuing education and continuing to learn about the businesses that I work with. I want to go back to the networking for a second because interviewing and networking, like I said, is really hard. It's not something, I think I'm a pretty, interpersonal communicator. I think I'm pretty good at that, but learning to sell yourself is something that needs to be learned. So a lot of the interviewing I did in the Wilmington area, it was tricky. Trying to find those projects in school that relate back to social media marketing is mostly what I was interviewing in. But IMC was one of the classes that I found myself coming back to time and time again. Learning that foundational knowledge. I remember learning about Starbucks too, and how well they sell their product. And Seth Godin was actually another name that really stuck out to me. When I first started working at ROI Revolution, we my manager at the time really wanted us to focus on that continuing education, like I said, and so she would send us these one-liner Seth Godin quotes. And I remember Dr. Pursuit doing the exact same thing when I was in school. So I kind of got the in with my manager of like, oh yeah, I know who Seth Godin is, I know what you're talking about. So it was kind of like a fun experience then of showing my experience there. I got really lucky because at the time I started working for ROI, my department I was the 5th hire at that point, and now our team is double that. So I've gotten to see that grow, and that's kind of, in my opinion, one of the more valuable experiences I've had because I've been able to help shape that just a little bit. Not in the same way that some of our other panelists have, but I've definitely been transitioned more into the role of training some new people and sharing the knowledge that I have just in the 3 years that I've been working there. But it's been a lot of fun, and that's something that I really enjoy at this point, and is definitely going to shape the rest of my career too.
Alrighty, well, do we have any questions for Christine?
What are some of the major social media strategies that you find the most effective at attracting and retaining customers?
Yeah, so there's a couple kind of baseline strategies that we do, what we call remarketing versus prospecting. Prospecting is going to be going out to people who are not aware of your brand yet. They have not engaged with your product or your brand in any way. Those, of course, are going to be more expensive and a little bit harder to convert. But that's how you get that long-term growth. I preach about this to my clients every single day, that you can't leave that off the table because the other half of the side, or the other side of the coin, is remarketing, which are people who have purchased from you already. They're already loyal to your brand, and you can continue to remarket to those people and over again, but you're not going to be able to grow your business in any way. You'll be super profitable, but you're not going to overtake your competitors. So I think focusing on both sides of the coin there is really important for that long-term business growth.
So we do have one from the Snapchat. The ability to create social media content is becoming increasingly common. With that in mind, what advice do you have for students looking to distinguish themselves in that same field?
Yeah, so I probably should have started with this, but my role is paid social media. So my clients come to us saying, I have these specific business objectives and I need you to target the right people and make those happen. So I'm creating the ads that are promoted on these platforms. Organic social media is the other side of that, and I think that's more of what that question is talking about, that content creation and trying to come up with those more creative ideas. That's something I enjoy interacting with. It's not something I'm particularly fantastic at, which is why I work on the paid side.
Anybody else have any final questions for Christine? Alrighty, well, thank you all for coming to this showcase. We hope you gained a lot of insight. If you'd like more of an opportunity to interact with these alumni and more, join us at 5 at Ironclad Brewery for an alumni networking event. Professional dress, please. Until then, join us in Lumina Theater at 1 p.m. for the satellite viewing of TEDx Airly. Thank you all for joining us today.